Yo, what up? It's your brother. And hopefully your friend, Big Hill. Rock Hoisey in the bill. Black African power. Pro-black consciousness. Each one. Teach one. Alright, yeah, I got some information I want to share with y'all this morning. I think this is some good information to share right here. Once again, it's coming from my book, My Art Guiding Principles of Morality. Matter of fact, I think, man, from now on, I'll probably, because I used to like just print this stuff on my page. If you want to read it yourself, it's on my Facebook page. But as I read through it and study it and try to internalize the information, you know, I feel like talking about it here for a second will help me to internalize it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read it to you, then we're gonna critically examine the information. Let's see what we can get out of it. And what it's about, it says learn from struggle. You know, and I think it's a given that one learns from struggle. You know, when I think about it, I can also say that there are some who don't, because, you know, you can go against the grain for so long that what was once rough and you struggle with becomes smooth. You know, you go against the grain for so long that it becomes smooth because you're used to it now. You know, you steady going against the grain and you still don't know it. So, you know, you can find comfort in misery. You can find comfort in struggle. Once you struggle for so long and you don't learn the lesson contained inside the struggle, then the struggle becomes normal to you. You know, like for everybody else, go against the grain, be like, whoa, boy, that's rough, man. Ooh, shit, let me go this way. It seems like your mind ought to automatically try to refigure that which it is that you're struggling with and find a better way to do it. But some people just don't get it. So, you know, I guess that's why it says you learn from struggle. And I think that needs to be emphasized, is that we all have some kind of struggles that we need to learn from. We've all had struggles that we've learned from, and we all gonna continue to have some struggles that we need to learn from. So, having said that, let me get into this info. It says learn from struggle. Struggle is the inevitable. It says struggle is inevitable and necessary for growth. It is at the basis of all transformation and the driving force of everything in nature, from the smallest unit to the largest system. No growth can happen without an internal struggle between opposing tendencies or ideas. Struggle is good in that it challenges us to get tougher, more decisive, and more adept at identifying and solving problems. Additionally, struggle helps to clarify values and beliefs, as well as discern the right and wrong of things. Running from or avoiding struggle does not help a person to grow. Avoidance doesn't help you to clarify matters, take principled positions on issues, overcome internal challenges or weaknesses, or face unjust people or situations. Rather than run from struggle and or hardship, face it directly and honestly. Contemplate its meaning, direction, and your opportunity to take charge over what you have control over. Doing so helps you to free yourself of illusions and become better at successfully overcoming challenges. Through internal struggle between what is right and what is wrong, who you are now and who you wish to be, you can transform your weaknesses into strengths, mistakes into lessons, and challenges into milestones. So, you know, as I was reading this stuff, you know, like when I read information, you know, and I see certain words, you know, certain, like I said in the previous video that I've made, you know, is that I'm a skeptic and I'm a cynic. I'm real cynical about information and things that I hear. And I want to say that I can't help it, but I don't like the way saying that sounds in my mind, like you can't help it. I don't like the idea of being helpless. Especially over something internally that I know I can change. So once I looked at being a skeptic and a cynic a little closer, up on close examination, I realized that sometimes being a skeptic and a cynic is a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Question everything. I don't accept nothing at face value. It's like when information enters my brain and I'm presented with information, it's like my brain automatically starts to dissect the information and critically analyze it, look at it from different angles. It's like a grinder. It goes through my brain, it breaks it all apart, then it brings it out on the other side, and it's all laid out. And then once I look at it and I dissect it, I'm like, okay, there's some truth to that. Then, you know, I can accept it. Then I can internalize it because I've actually critically thought, analyzed it, and see if it was right for me. Because what's true for you may not be true for me. So, although being a cynic and a skeptic on the surface level sounds like, oh, you cynical and you're skeptical, actually, man, it can be a good thing. You know, I'm glad I understand the law of polarity, because I know that everything vibrates on the same plane. It's just different levels, you know, different frequencies to the same thing. So I know if I'm a cynic and a skeptic on one end, the law of polarity says that I can be even out as I move through that plane. And then I can see where, nah, you don't need to be cynical and skeptical about this. Some people are cynical and skeptical to such a degree that it's hard for them to get truth. It's hard for them to accept truth. Those are the people who don't learn from struggle. You know what I'm saying? Those are the people who are so cynical and doing things the wrong way, is that when you present them with truth, they still don't want to accept it. But I don't want to veer off into that. We're going to go back over this information. It says struggle is inevitable and necessary for growth. You know, that's one of the words, struggle is inevitable. Why struggle got to be inevitable? Well, it is, man. If you look at it, if you look at when we were born, you know, like when Pops was hitting Mom, and he had that orgasm, and there you go. Straight through the phallus, straight off into that triple black darkness of the womb. You and a billion other sperm cells fighting against the law of gravity, trying to get to that egg, swimming. So that just lets you know you was the one that made it, so you the best of the best, because you was competing with about a billion other sperm cells just to get to the egg. And then the law of gravity, because I can remember, man, I had a conversation with my nephew about this. When my great nephew, his sister was born, he had a little difficulties there at the beginning. And I made the statement that, you know, hey, coming into this world, he was presented against struggle. He fought against the law of gravity just to reach that egg. And my nephew, who was on paper as a genius now, he shot that down. He's like, it don't make sense. But I know it makes sense, so I didn't really argue with him about it. I just told him to think about it. And the example that I'll use is, now I don't want to be vulgar in this, but if I know that us men, and you women too, have had sex, the ejaculation happened. I'm going to try to keep this clean. I don't want to sound vulgar and nasty while I'm trying to explain this, but this is life, so hey, it is what it is. Ejaculation happens. And we all know, us adults know, that what we sent into the woman's womb will come back out. Whether she forces it out with her internal muscles, or just the law of gravity gonna make it seep out, because it's gonna come out. That's gravity pulling it out. So that sperm that made it to the egg had to fight against the law of gravity just to reach the egg. So struggle is inevitable all the way from the beginning of our lives. We were born into struggle, just trying to get to the egg so we can be conceived and start that process of life. So yeah, I would have to agree with struggle being inevitable, right? And then it says, and necessary for growth. Yeah. I mean, how can you grow if there's nothing challenging you? If you don't have any challenges, if everything is always going smooth and everything, there's nothing, man, to ripple the water, there's nothing that you have to adjust to, there's nothing that you have to struggle against. How can you grow as a person? If there's nothing spiritually that you have to overcome, if there's nothing mentally that challenges you, even physically. You know, in the gym, we say no pain, no gain. If I go in there with 10 pounds and I'm just throwing around 10 pounds all the time because I'm weak and I can't lift 10 pounds, but once I get to where I can lift 10 pounds, I'm just using that as an example. Or I'll go bigger. Let's say I'm in there and I put 245 dumbbells on the bar, right? Any average sized man should be able to throw up that easily. But, you know, if we don't work out and we ain't used to having our chest muscles exerted, that 90 pounds and 110 pounds with the bar, gonna be heavy. It's just 2 plates on a weight bench. Now, after we work out with that for a while, it becomes easy. We can get out there and throw it up 25 pounds. But where is the growth in that? And we're gonna have to put some more weight on there, man. Slap you 10 more. Put 10 pounds on there and put 25 pound weight. Now you struggling again. Which in turn, you're gonna buff up. Why? Just because what it said right here. Struggle is necessary for growth. So we need to understand, man, that when we're undergoing struggle, instead of looking at it as the struggle, oh God, why I gotta go through this, look at it as a necessary part of your evolution and a necessary part of what you have to go through to continue to evolve and continue to grow as a person. It says it's at the basis of all transformation and the driving force of everything in nature, from the smallest unit to the largest system. What is struggle? Struggle is the basis of all transformation. So that right there, man, makes struggle seem real important. It's like, you know, we got to have it in our lives. Especially if we want to be transformed. And everybody should be seeking evolution. Everybody should be, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement, right? So everybody should be looking at life and things that happen to you in life as an opportunity to transform you into better. I've always said that man, the only thing I'm trying to do on a daily basis is be a better person than I was yesterday. Because we creatures of habit. So if I got a lot of bad habits, then I'm going to bring them bad habits to yesterday and today. But if I understand that those habits that I got is causing me struggle in my life, then I'm going to make that a part of my subconscious mind. And in my subconscious mind, I'm going to be thinking about overcoming them because they'll struggle. And that's what's going to become the catalyst for transformation. I don't want to try to sound too deep here, but you know, it's some good stuff. It says, no growth can happen without an internal struggle between two opposing tendencies or ideas. You know, opposing tendencies. Said no growth can happen without the struggle between two opposing tendencies. You know, we have a tendency to do things. Like, I'll give you an example for me that I struggle with, and I've been struggling with for years, and I'm still trying to get better at this. Is that when I'm engaged in conversation with somebody and I feel like I'm being misunderstood, my passion that I have, that internal fire that I have, it'll make me start talking louder. It's like, and then people will think that I'm yelling at them, but I'm not yelling at them. I'm just really trying to break down what I'm saying in a better, because I'm passionate. So that passion will come out in the way I express myself, but oftentimes it makes people feel like, yo, why you yelling at me? That's an internal, that's a tendency that I have. So in order for me to get better and undergo some transformation, I have to keep that in mind and understand that, look, brother, when you misunderstood, you don't have to get loud. That's when you need to think in your mind right now, okay, they misunderstand me. So calmly, quietly, try to get them to understand where you're coming from. You don't have to yell and scream. That's an internal tendency. That's a struggle that I have. So, an idea. So struggle is good in that it challenges us to get tougher and more decisive and more adept at identifying and solving problems. So right there, you know, is letting you say struggle is good. You know, so, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole point, is that we look at struggle as something that we don't want. You know, it's the paradigm that we seek struggle through. You know, most people take the path of least resistance. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes we have to look at struggle and challenge it head on. Like, I can remember, man, when I first started when I first got in recovery back 15 years ago. And I always talk about that right in my videos, because that's who I am. That's part of my experience. That's a place that I can say, that I can look back on and find a starting point where my life began to transform. That's why I always talk about it. But in our literature that we used to read, it says that some of us sought an easier, softer way, but we could not. You know, when it's time to get sober, most people don't want to do the work that it requires to overcome an addiction. So they seek an easier, softer way. They don't want to do the work that we suggest they do. They like, nah, I don't want to do all that. I'm going to find a better way, which usually includes not doing anything. You know, like going into a church house, reading the Bible and seeing in the Bible where it says that, you know, when you confess Christ, all things become new. And you think because you run up in a church house and you confess Christ and you do it with a whole lot of emotionalism, that all of a sudden, poof, everything that you've been for the last damn 15 or 20 years getting ready to change and you get ready to walk out of there a new person. No, it don't work like that. There's some work, there's some struggle that you're going to have to go, and there's some work that you're going to have to do. So, right there where it says, oh, I lost my place, it says struggle that good, that it challenges us to get tougher and more decisive and more adept at identifying solving problems. Like, if we're going through something and we're struggling with something, it seems only logical to me that that struggle would make you sit back like, damn, okay, hold on. It's a better way. It's a better way to do this. It got to be a better way. See, that's what it's talking about right there. Being more adept at identifying solving problems. But in order for you to develop that type of mind state, you have to have something to struggle with. Without the struggle, you won't become adept. If everything's always smooth to you and you can go through life coasting and shit, what you know about struggle? I don't even really want to hear you. You know what I'm saying? Because I already know when you undergo some type of adversity, you're going to fold up like a cheap suit. Why? Because you ain't never endured no struggle before. So, you know, anyway. So it says running from or avoiding struggle does not help a person to grow. No, it doesn't, man. Running from and avoiding struggle, only thing it help you to do is just continue to be the same person you have always been. You ain't going to undergo no transformation. You're not going to grow as a person, because every time you up against something comes up against you, I can't take it. You know, you break down and run and hide. You run from your problems instead of trying to solve the problems, thinking that some magical solution gonna make them go away. You know, nah. Running from or avoiding struggle does not help a person to grow. Avoidance doesn't help you to clarify matters. You know, clarifying matters. How can you clarify something, make something clear to you, if you avoided it? Here you got a situation that smacking you all up in your face, all upside your head, and you running from it. You know what I'm saying? But yet in order to advance in your life, you need to address this. By running from it and avoiding it, you can't even sit down with it and say, okay, this is what's going on. This is what I need to change. This is what I need to do. Nah. So you know, that's what that information says to me right there. Okay, come on, let's go. Let's keep going. I'm going to finish this here. It says, to take principled position on issues, overcome internal challenges or weaknesses, or face unjust people or situations. Avoiding struggle. Avoiding struggle doesn't help you to take principled position on issues. See, I consider myself a principled man. I'm a man of principles. I have built my whole life for the last 15 years on principles, spiritual principles. So if I'm involved or engaged in something that conflict with those principles, then I have to back up off of it. I mean, it's like, let me see how I can make this make sense right here and keep it in context of what this book just said. It says, avoidance of struggles does not help you to overcome, to take a principled position. Okay. The way I look at it, and if you can come in the comments, man, to help me with this one, because I'm trying to work it out in my mind. That's the reason why I'm going through this. This is my way of analyzing it so I can internalize it. And once I can internalize and make it make sense in my head, then it become a truth to me, and it helps me to elevate. It raises my frequency a little bit, because information is transforming. Okay, so if I avoid struggle, I can't take a principle. I can't take a principled position. Why? Because, first of all, for me to be a principled person and somebody go against my principle, I'm going to do one or two things. I'm going to just go along with what you do to avoid struggle. Or I'm going to say, nah, man, that conflicts with my principles right there. And we're gonna have to resolve that matter. Why? Because I'm not avoiding the struggle that it's going to take for me to stand on my principles. See, a person who has principles and lives on his principles, he don't mind struggling, because he gonna go with his principles regardless of what else happens. You know what I'm saying? That's like saying, you know, I'm selling out. I know I'm a principled person. I have a standard, but just to please and appease somebody or get along with somebody, I'm gonna let what you do conflict with my principle, because I don't want to avoid this. I want to avoid the struggle. That's why it says avoiding struggle do not help you to take a principled position on things. You have to hit that struggle head on. You have to say, okay, I know this is gonna be some shit right here. You know what I'm saying? But you know, we just gonna have to go through this to get to the other side, because this is where I stand and this is where I continue to stay. These are principles. It's principalities in this shit, Smokey. And when you go against those principles, I'm not going to avoid the struggle to get you to understand that you're stepping on my feet by doing that. So that's the way that looks to me. It says internal challenges or weaknesses. How many of us, I know I'm not the only one sitting here that got internal challenges or weaknesses. My internal challenges is to keep that nigga that I used to be, that street nigga. That's an internal challenge for me every day, because he always looking for expression. He always looking the way to raise up and express himself and say things the way he think it need to be heard. But me, the divine intelligence that I am, the God, always want to be on a higher vibration, on a higher frequency. That's an internal struggle with me. You know, I have to constantly tell myself, yo, that's not who you are anymore, man. That's not who you are. That's not who you want to be. You are evolving into your godhood. That reflection, you need to be a reflection of the divine when you meet people, when you deal with people, when you deal with situations and circumstances. It's the divine intelligence and the divine wisdom and the divine guidance that's gonna get you through. Not that nigga that you think you are, that you used to be. But he's always there. He's always lurking. See, that's an internal struggle. That's why it says, you know, so avoiding that struggle, you know, for me to avoid that struggle would mean that dude gonna always have expression. Every time I open my mouth, I'm gonna sound like that motherfucker. You know, see that energy right there? I'm gonna sound like him. I'm gonna sound like him. It's always gonna come out, because why? I'm avoiding the struggle. That's an internal conflict. You know, that's just one. We all got internal conflicts and weaknesses, man. You know what I'm saying? A weakness. Shit, I got a weakness for goddamn sweets. I like goddamn cookies, cakes, and candies. The little boy in me like to eat munchies and shit. So I have to make sure, like, yo, bro, you getting too old to be eating all this. I got goddamn half a donut up right now. I'm drinking with my coffee. No, I don't supposed to be eating this motherfucking donut, but I'm gonna eat it. But see, I just said, man, look, just eat half of it now. Don't try to gobble the whole damn thing up. You know you don't supposed to be eating it, so don't eat it. I did good yesterday. I didn't eat none. I did good the day before, but today it's Friday. I want me a damn donut. But that's a weakness for me. Why? Because, man, I'm 280 pounds. I ain't real fat, but I know that I'm getting older and I have to be more health conscious. So the weakness is being disciplined in my dietary practices and what I put into my body. But if I avoid that struggle, what's gonna happen? My ass gonna blow up. I'm just 20 pounds from 300 now. You know what I'm saying? I weigh 280. I mean, this is 6'5". It's stretched out over 6'5" frame, so it don't look real fat. But shit, 300 pounds is too much for the joints, man. The body, my frame wasn't designed to carry that much weight. You know what I'm saying? So like it says here, the back to the information, because it ain't about me, it's about the information. I'm just using my own stuff as a parallel to try to make the point about what the information is saying. It says, when you avoid it, you can't take a principle. You can't clarify matters. When you avoid struggle, you can't clarify matters. You can't take principled position on issues. You can't overcome internal weaknesses or challenges. So we don't need to avoid struggle. That's the whole point right there. When you find yourself struggling with something, you need to look at that struggle head on. See, me myself, I have the spirit of a warrior. I've always accepted a challenge and shit. I love challenges. You know what I'm saying? When I see a challenge in something that, because I'm like, yo, you ain't gonna get me, I'm gonna get you. So anything in my life that I consider a struggle, I'm gonna attack it head on because I feel like I can defeat it. I ain't going out like no sucker. That's always been my motto. You know what I'm saying? So we need to make sure that we don't avoid struggle. Now, it says, rather than run from struggle and or hardship, face it directly and honestly. That's what I was just saying. Contemplate its meaning. You know, what is the meaning of this struggle? Contemplate it. Why am I going through this? Because see, within that right there, within that scenario right there, that's your growth. That's where you're going to get that, aha, I'm struggling with this because I lack the ability to do this, or there's some part of who I am I need to change. Because if I can overcome this struggle, I'm going to be strengthened, which is going to prepare me for something that's on down the road. You know, as like when I was in the church, we used to say things like, to use some religious language, like, God has taken me through this because he's preparing me for something else. I don't talk like that anymore. What I'll say is that I'm being strengthened by facing this struggle, and by overcoming this struggle is preparing me for whatever it is that I'm going to have to go through next. You know what I'm saying? Like when I take one step, I got enough strength to take the other step. It says now, rather than avoid struggle and the hardship, face it directly, contemplate its meaning and direction, and opportunity to take charge of over what you have control on. When we face struggle, we have to understand that there's a wisdom that has to come with that. You know, there's a prayer that we used to say, you know, I still say it sometimes. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So when we accept these struggles, we always have to know, man, I would say we have to know how to pick our battles. You know what I'm saying? We can't be fighting something, man, that's really not our fight, and that it's not going to serve me no good purpose to be struggling with. I'm not going to struggle with your struggles unless you really mean something to me. If you mean something to me and you're going through a struggle, then I'm going to get in there, man, I'm going to help you overcome it. That's just who I am. But everybody's struggle ain't my struggle. You know what I'm saying? That's why I says that take charge of what you have control over. I have control over who I choose to struggle with. I have control over and the wisdom to know, man, that every fight ain't my fight. You know what I'm saying? And as I continue to grow, things that I used to struggle with and fight about, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, look, man, I ain't getting ready to expend my energy on that because it's not going to serve me no good purpose. I'd rather save my energy and conserve my energy for a struggle that means something, that's something I really need to be fighting. Okay. Doing so helps to free yourself of illusions and become better at successfully overcoming challenges. Illusions. Free yourself of them. Seeing things as they are is not how you want them to be. Overcoming challenges. Anybody got any challenges that we trying to overcome? Think about it. Avoiding the struggle ain't gonna help you to overcome it. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna never be able to overcome nothing if you run from the struggle. You know, so we have to remember struggle ain't always a bad thing. In our personal lives, it's a good thing. Through internal struggle between what is right and what is wrong, who you are now and who you wish to be, you can transform your weaknesses into strength. Make mistakes into lessons and challenges into milestone. Think about that. Think about your weaknesses. And thinking about transforming them into strengths. That very thing that used to be a thorn in your side is now one of your greatest assets. Think about that. I'm not going to get too deep into that right there, but I could clearly look at my life and see a lot of the things, man, that used to be weaknesses to me or strengths, because I changed the paradigm on them. And all I did was in the law of polarity, I just changed the direction on which I was using it. You know what I'm saying? I used to use a lot of stuff for negativity. Now I use it for positivity. So what I was using negativity to get things done, I use it for positivity, and it's yielding me better results. And it's giving me more fulfillment as a person, which is becoming some of my greatest strengths. I'm going to leave that right there. It says, mistakes into lessons. If you are making mistakes and you can't learn from them, like, okay, I look at it like this. I'm put it like this. I ask a question. Can you make the same mistake twice? Most people are quick to say no. I mean, most people are quick to say, yeah. You can make this. I used to say it to a brother, pointed out to me one time. He said, no, man, you only make a mistake once. You don't make the same mistake twice. The second time it was a choice. Now you can make a different mistakes, but you don't make the second time. You already knew what the consequence was because you did the mistake once and you knew what happened. So when you done it again, you was quite aware of the consequence. So that wasn't a mistake; it was a choice, and I understand that. But taking that mistake, learning from it, and turning it into a lesson, and the lesson is, yo, I don't need to do that no more, man, because I don't like the results. I don't like the consequence. Everything has consequences. You know, good choices had good consequences, bad choices had bad consequences. So I have to make sure that I learn from the mistakes that I make. That way I won't make that choice, because it's only going to be one time that it's a mistake. I won't make that choice again. That mistake won't happen again, because it's a lesson and I learned. And challenges and the milestones. See, that sounds good right there, because if something was once a challenge and I overcome it, it's a milestone. I can look back on my life and say, man, I can remember when I used to struggle with that, man. Like for me, drinking and getting high. That's a milestone. It used to be a challenge. But there's a date that I can go back to. October the 4th, 2001. That's a milestone for me. That's a marker. Like, yo, you haven't picked up a drink or a drug since then. Somebody who used to smoke dope and get high every motherfucking day for like, shit, 23 years. On that day you stopped and haven't went back. That's a milestone. That's because, man, I accepted the challenge. I embraced the struggle, and I didn't avoid going through the things that I need to do to change. And that's the whole point of me going through all that stuff, is to try to encourage us, man, to embrace our struggles. We all got them. We all struggling with something, man. We human. You know, on one plane of existence, we human. And until we start getting proper knowledge of self and learning how to embrace our struggles,